I just have your domain up, glasses.com.
Yep. Yeah, I can see that. Popped up.
So I'm always early for meetings as well. I might as well jump in. I don't need to wait for my sales guys. So first off, yeah, what do you do? What's your role within Glasses, Sam? If you could outline that for me.
The web analytics manager. So my role here is just to understand what is going on, so we can make the best decisions possible within the rest of our e-commerce team. So I work with different departments, with a little with merchandising or marketing, but I'm with the e-commerce department. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to analyze and understand what's going on our website, and so we can improve it.
Great. What tools do you guys currently use? Whether it's usability, analytics-based, intelligence, anything along those lines?
Well, currently we are using Omniture for a majority of our data needs and understanding what's going on the website. But we have some others. We'll probably. Sometimes we will start with 1-800, start using something, and then we'll implement it later. So currently, Omniture is really our main source right now.
Okay. What particular modules, if you happen, are you guys using Site Catalyst, Test and Target, Mbox Create? I don't know if you're familiar with all of the.
Yeah, we use Site Catalyst and mostly Discover. I prefer Discover, but we have both, Site Catalyst and Discover.
Okay, great. So one last question on that end. So you're the head of web analytics. How do web analytics play within your organization? Are you more with the technical team, the marketing team, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, I'd guess a little bit more of both. It's yeah, but I'm not necessarily part of the marketing team. That's a separate group. Not really in IT either. We have a separate e-commerce group that's in charge of content and development and analytics. So it's a good mix, I'd say.
Okay, great. So Oopgo, we're a digital marketing intelligence company. We have a couple of technologies. Our two showcase technologies. One of them is our 360 Web Intelligence Suite, which is an analytics. What I'm going to be displaying the first 10 minutes is our analytics module. After that, I'm going to be showing what we can do on the competitive intelligence end. And we have both of these modules integrated into one. So what I'm going to be doing is just about a 10 minutes capability overview. Please feel free to interrupt me at any time. And from there, we can just chat about specific instances of adding value to your website.
Okay.
So our biggest differentiator, see, I always ask what tools you use. We're very familiar with the other competitors out there. Our biggest differentiator from traditional analytics is usually traditional analytics, if I'm on a specific link, let's say now I'm on the woman's link, I click on glasses, a record is created when I click going from page by page. So we're creating records during the transition within each page. So if I'm doing subtle movements, if I'm hovering around here, if I'm typing something in pre-submit, none of that information is being recorded or tracked on its own. Our analytics with Oopgo, we're capturing the entire web experience as its own unique record. So if I move the site up and down, if I move a mouse up and down for 4 seconds, each different pixel on the screen is its own data point. So if I type information even pre-submit before selecting it, we're able to go back and get typing speeds within fields, how often the percentage of time someone's deleting, how clear your message is to a much deeper level from a data perspective. Is that pretty straightforward? Does that make sense to you, Sam?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's done, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, the how is not the important, it's the what. So yeah, in a lot of cases, so the biggest asset that usually comes in handy is for forms, such as, whatever the main primary call to action on your site is. I'm assuming it's the sale in this case, add to cart, etc., is being able within the forms to get deeper analytics to discover pain points and to understand the time it takes to complete a process. Just being able to get a lot deeper. So
okay, now, I mean, is that like from what I understand, you're taking like a recording of what's going on, so I could go back and like replay someone's experience and see their mouse move across? I mean, is it like a continual stream of their experience?
Yeah, that's the other end
so
of
it's more of a visual display, or can I go ask and say how, like get quantitative data of how long someone types in this field, or how long it takes someone, once they start typing, like, can I get aggregate data on a specific thing, or is it really just every experience is separate and I go into each one to understand what that person did?
It's a good question. It's both in its totality, quantitative and qualitative. And I usually bring up the quantitative because the replay in videos and qualitative are a lot easier to explain. So sometimes that's why I just covered the data storage differentiator before we get into the actual replay. But yeah, that's a good question. That's important to know because we always stress the fact if we just recorded each individual session on your site, you're going to have to it takes a lot of time and effort to go back and look at them individually. You look at bits and pieces, but because we're storing everything as an actual individual data point, it means that you can manually skim through what's happening and you can pinpoint, and in any cases you want, you can play that record. So you can be diving through data, see a couple of outliers like, why are these customers abandoning? 98% of my customers who've added to cart, they spent 20 minutes on your site buying four products, they enter in their information, then you see them hesitate and leave. You might want more insight to say, oh, is our security seal not clear enough? And just try to discover patterns and trends that can then be applied on the quantitative end. So on that note, yeah, so that's why I brought up the data end first. Now for the actual video replay end. So on the side of that, as we already said, everything done on your site by every visitor is captured replayed as a data record. I'm just going to let it run for a second to answer some questions of what's stored. And what we try to do on our end internally is we do a pretty deep dive aside from what you see on the actual site to bring up the psychology behind a lot of the purchasing decisions that we've noticed on websites. An example I'll give you is we noticed if someone's contacting us, and we get contacts from larger companies. Personally, as a company, we're looking to, our main call to action is a fill-out form, a fill-out form to contact and get more information. We notice that we take an individual look and notice if someone is spending 2 or 3 minutes filling out a form, it means that they're usually a much higher value client. Because common sense, they're taking a lot of time into what they're saying, they have value to what they're assessing, as opposed to a lot of people are just kind of copying and pasting. So that's just one example. In this bank website example, what we actually have on this screen you see, it's a wealth management page example. When someone is choosing their investable assets and they choose a higher number, then they switch to a lower later on. Where we tag that data and let banks know this is a lot easier to upsell a client who already says who might have the capability to be in the higher bracket, as opposed to trying to upsell everyone regardless of choice. So those are just a couple of examples of discovery that's available through videos. It's really hard to tell in a lot of cases from the data. But once you discover that on the video end, you can apply it across, a lot more sessions than just one.
Right.
So that's, the other points to notice here is usability is one of our biggest assets within our product. You can pause. You can go back and forth through the video. You can speed up the video play speed. And this button here on the bottom right, what it does is it makes it play in the exact resolution as seen by your customer. So we have a default video player size. If you click this button and it's a mobile phone, it's going to show up exactly as it showed. If you click this button, in this case, it's a screen that fills up the resolution on my page. It's going to show it in the exact user experience. So on that note, this is an example of a mobile-specific session, and this is proprietary technology, this in particular. What we're doing here, what you're about to see, the blue and the orange is the finger movement on the page, how someone's engaging your site from a mobile phone. The first orange is their first finger and blue is their second. So I'll let that run for a second.
So that orange is their finger that's still down?
Yeah, correct. Correct.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you. But and obviously that also showed their orientation is being replayed accurately as well. But the important part is the first part I told you all the data is being stored. So you also have quantitative analysis regarding finger point movements, the orientations, etc. These are all stored, so you can go back and aggregate the sessions and figure out things on the broad scale as well. But of course, being able to see it doesn't hurt depending on what your objective is. So. And once again, feel free to interrupt me at any time when we're going through this. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Aside from this, so yeah, those weren't within our actual module. These were both examples of capabilities with outlier demo links. What I'm going to be showing here is just kind of the starting point. For an analytics product, we don't get too deep on the first call. If we want to get a lot deeper into the reporting tools, we can definitely have that discussion later on. But I'm just going to show the very common sense differentiator from the step one login perspective. So.
Okay, and what is this that I'm seeing now?
What you're seeing now is our main analytics dashboard. So I'm even going to make this simpler. If I log out here, I log in. This kind of lets you know it's a web-based application you log into. So this would be the starting point that's obviously in comparison to what you're used to seeing. So.
Okay.
So yeah, the 1,000 extra data points we're storing every session, all the little extra pieces of data. We're not by default throwing them on any individual analytic page, but we do have that capability. Usually for our deeper analytics and storage, we customize. You can customize and say, hey, I want to measure an abandonment more clearly by factoring in mouse movement on type of security seal. Then you can copy, paste, and manipulate the core analytics that are listed. So the big difference with us, I'm sure from the first couple screens you can guess, is every data point is playable. From every view, we have it strategically aligned. So in this case, if we want to look into traffic from Google, pretty standard analytic, we're going to have this information broken down on a session-by-session basis with a panoramic view.
Okay,
go ahead.
So this is all your traffic that came from Google?
Correct. So the point is,
and so each individual thing, if I click on this, that's that person's experience, and there'll be thousands of these, I'm guessing.
Well, millions, yeah, depending on your traffic. Correct.
Yeah.
So regardless of your traffic load, yeah, and you can dig as deep as you want into any segment. Google is an example, So if you want to dig into people who came from China, moved for 3 seconds, entered your site 4 times, that's just the point is all of the data you can dig to this deeper view. So.
Okay, so I can create very precise segments and then see, filter down all these personal, experiences that people had on our page based on those segments. But and then this is saying I can play that experience.
Yeah, you can play it from a few different views. So you can play the experience from the what we call the less deep view. This would just play the session straight view. Or if you click the View Details button here, that's not a great example. Yeah, I'm going to go to a example I had set up before. So.
Okay.
Because
just real quick, just
go ahead.
Another thought I had. Is this something that you feel is a standalone type of analytics tool? Or is this something that works alongside with Omniture?
It works alongside. It is, to be honest, the replacing would be the end goal on our end, but I do know the build that goes into every analytics tool, particularly the Omniture's IBM Core Metrics. So for the time being, most of our clients were setting up this is a discussion to have later on, but it's absolutely supplementary. Our data source, it's all one data source. Everything can be integrated from what you're currently using, so you might not have a need to see the step one analytics. So either way.
Guys, this is James. How are you guys doing today?
Good, James. How are you?
Yeah. So just a kind of follow-up point. I think that it can be both, but I think one of the specific skill sets that obviously Patrick's hitting on is really the idea that not only do we provide you with analytics, but we also provide you with really actionable tools to really modify customer behavior on your site. All the other tools, what they offer basically is sort of a glimpse in the past of what people have done. Our live component and our ability to couple that with drop downs and with live chatting makes it a valuable tool that can allow you to really interact with customers in real time.
Yeah, I haven't shown him that tool yet. We're going to get there next year, but we'll get there. Thanks, James. So James is on. That's who we're waiting on for, Sam. It's our sales director. So.
Okay.
So to transition.
That was James, right?
Yeah, James direct. So to transition from the view we see here, this wasn't a very, not a lot of customer history. Let's pretend that session I viewed had a lot of customer history. So if this is Joe Anonymous Browser and he's visited your site 84 times in the past, this view here, this is created for every single visitor on your website. We call it the entire customer experience from one view. You have their individual page played on our main player. Underneath here is the other pages within their session. So let's see how many pages. This is a 3-page session, so it'll by default play through the session, or you can click around from page to page to get to what you're actually looking for. And we also have this unique panoramic view. We take snapshots of every page you're visited on and incorporate it into all of our video views to basically just, it's more insight and more practical analysis as opposed to dig around and see what page it is. It just kind of makes things quicker based on our internal testing. So yeah, the big asset here, once again, by default, it's closed, it's collapsed. We click it to open, and if I want to look at the history of a specific customer, I can keep flipping around from session to session. What's relevant here is, so if this is Joe Anonymous Browser, let's say he's been on your site 5 times, and he keeps adding a lot of valuable information into the cart, and he keeps leaving. We would be able to, through our internal intelligence system, we could create tags and label and say this is Joe is a high-value customer who keeps abandoning. Now let's take a look at what's caused him to abandon, or let's set up an automatic trigger on our end to have a pop-up, to have a different price structure only applicable to Joe, because we think that if we do get him to purchase, it's going to be a high-value customer. So this is just that's just a couple examples of practical usage on our end, and being able to see the whole customer experience.
So one thing I saw is, number one, you said that you can see what he's doing, and you might get a feel that changing something to his experience might increase the possibility of him purchasing, I suppose. And then you're saying you can then, through your tools, serve him up a different experience than anyone else is seeing?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, that's correct. Through our, I think it's best if we can hold off a couple minutes. I go through the visual end, and we'll get into how our. But yeah, that's exactly what we can do. So we can customize with much more precision than any other product on the market because of the 1,000 data points. So you can incorporate into that content serving or dynamic content, pushing in his experience. You can also integrate keystrokes and movement and deeper analytics.
Okay. Well, and I guess just to help you understand where we're at as well, I mean, another tool that just made me think of that we use is SiteSpec, where we'll serve up, we'll do tests that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Yeah, that's what I was asking. A lot of people are doing A/B testing or multivariate for some instances. Then they're pushing content with this. So, there's a lot of tools on the market. So we tried to integrate everything we can into our primary data source. But common sense-wise, for enterprises your size, the step 1 point is usually a limited, let's just see the video recordings on that end. And from there, once we see the data load and we understand on our end that we're pushing the ease of use, that, maybe you'd consider replacing another. So we're not trying to take too many big bites at a time. Does this all make sense what we're viewing here? The other detail I didn't mention here, Sam, is if you do have the user's information, whether it's stored from a CRN or any internal, whatever your internal login or member identification is, we would be able to show these records with their names listed. That requires an integration, but from a capability standpoint, we have that built in where it's pretty seamless on our end. So you could see your high-value anonymous visitors listed as past customer, and then you could see Joe Smith listed as Joe Smith. So you could use this on the customer servicing end as well. And, just for current clients doing Q&A analysis, that sort of thing. So.
Okay, so if I have a customer ID that identified through an Omniture code, I could integrate that with this and find that customer ID?
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, and usually you'd want to keep your anonymous as well as your, yeah, we define it by default by IP address, but we also store our own local cookie, and of course in the case that you have a unique identifier, we can integrate that in. So.
Okay.
Aside from that, one of the big points we try to make in our entire product is we're not only showing this being able to see what you can see. Every view, it's all accompanied by data. We have the capability to change what's listed under the data very seamlessly on your end. So if your company determines your KPIs, you can list only that information on each session. It's set on session-specific, customer history-wide, as well as any individual actions that are specific to your site. That's what these key actions are, kind of like events tracking, for anything that happens on the site. And our tagging, and I'll show you this a bit deeper in a minute, but the tagging and segmentation is about things like under key actions, you'd say one individual sale. Segmentation would be, I label this as someone who's made 10 sales in the past. So this is more of the macro basis. This is the micro per session.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the actual, because this guy only had one past visit here. So another detail from here that's very relevant and a differentiator is in this case, I think this is on session view. So we dug into Google 165 as the number of unique sessions we're getting kind of an overlook view on. I click customer view, it's going to requery this information and separate it for each individual customer. So it's going to pull up less containers because if we have 165 sessions, it could be from 100 customers. If I click page view, it's going to do that same thing on a page-by-page basis, all within that individual segment you selected beforehand. So this just gives you a lot of flexibility for practical analysis without having to dig through a lot of dashboards. Everything at your fingertips, one click. Now we have it from the customer view instead. So aside from this, we have this live activity listed above. I'm going to have to go to one of my fake views to show what this looks like to make sure we get them. So what this is also proprietary technology on our end. We're able to recreate and basically do live engagement with your website activity. This 5 live users would simulate if you currently had 5 active users on your site, you would be able to monitor them all on macro basis, all of them. Focus on any individual to watch what they're doing while they're actively browsing your site. And by default, we have chat integrated there too. But the truth is that on our end, it's not much of a pain point for any other custom integrations into any other kind of tool you're currently using. So the big thing to push here is the capability in itself to relay live traffic, and this is without any user-based download or permission needed because we're storing and then just re-spewing out the data.
So how live is it? How much is there a delay?
Well, the latency is going to be caused down the user. On average, I believe we're at 1.3 seconds. 1.3, so we can say 2 seconds to be conservative about it. But that's dependent on the internet speed from your actual browsing from your actual user. So someone has 56K internet, it might be an extra second or two. But from a capability perspective, there's no limitation on our end. So, there's no forced latency.
How many users can you see at a time?
Thousands, if that's the case. It's not practical to, but the capability isn't limited. The practical use case for sites with higher traffic is you can do this on a segment specific as well. So I can say, go ahead, Sam.
So this, I can if I can look at what someone's doing on here, I see 5 users, and one of them looks like they're clearly confused. I can target them and ask them if they prompt them to chat with me?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
is there a possibility, or is there any video chatting?
No, we don't have video chatting.
Okay.
But if you guys are using another video chat application, integrations, you can't guarantee you can do everything, but we're a very flexible organization because we're doing this all in the same database. All of this user information from every module, integrations are a lot less of a pain internally. So
So when this live chat, that'll integrate potentially with our current chatting system?
Well, we have our own. This is a standalone by default. So in that
Okay,
case,
so
we would
this is
detach our
standalone.
live chat.
Okay.
Yeah, this is standalone by default. But if you're using a live chat system, we would be able to supplement it directly with. Obviously, when it comes to live chat, being able to see what the visitor is actually doing is going to unquestionably reduce the time per resolution, particularly just understanding nonverbal cues. So if you tell Joe, hey, did you click on the red button, you can actually see. So yeah, and the main point for you guys, again, is this is all synced to the segment. So you can say, I only want the live view for people who've made 20 visits in the past, or for people who have been struggled, who've abandoned 5 times after having, $10,000 worth of items in their shopping cart. So that's important for any enterprise site to say you're not just going to have thousands of people randomly thrown on here. So.
Have you ever heard any feedback of customers being a little, I don't know, taken back that you can see what they're doing as they're doing it? Is that?
Well, a lot of companies bring up that, issue. To be honest, they would not need to know. We're not doing anything intrusive here. We're not breaking passwords. So it really depends.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if is that something that they usually, I can see what you're doing, click, you're a little too high just below that kind of thing,
Yeah.
Or is that, I guess, up to you and how your interaction is?
Go ahead, James.
I think a lot of that, we can design a lot of, basically you've got a lot of control over the way that, our application is implemented. So,
right.
every site basically honestly has different kinds of, I won't say integrity level, but respect levels, right? Like, I had a call yesterday with a site that was doing charity fundraising, right? So, it depends on the product set. Obviously you can write. We suggest that you write a line in your privacy section just saying that you do that. But there are some customers like banks, for example, that dispute resolution is a huge issue, right? I mean, they get customers all the time that say, hey, I tried to pay my mortgage online. I hit everything and hit send and nothing worked. Well, they can go back and look at the video now and see that, the guy either never made it there or didn't log in or didn't do anything, right? So, I think there are degrees of respectability in using it, and certainly you're able to block out things like passwords and credit card numbers and things like that. That you're obviously watching people's behavior. They're on a public site, so there's certain things they give up when they're on public spaces.
Yeah, it's what we usually tell companies. Sometimes someone will bring it up. We tell them, if we give you a video camera and you place it in the bathroom, the liability is not on our end. It's on the company's end to know what you're not supposed to see, basically. So,
all right,
we're just pitching up. Okay. So on this premise of we talk about everything strategically integrated, in this case, I showed you the detailed view before. If someone is live, you usually want to open this in a new screen. You click View Details. We seamlessly transition into that customer's history view. So if you're even servicing a customer, whether, let's say it's I don't know how many situations you guys have where closing sales on the actual site, but if you wanted to open up, someone's live and you wanted to open up their history from the same view, you could say, all right, this guy's made 10 purchases in the past. Here's how he usually works. Let's have the salesperson adjust his pitch accordingly. So it's used for sales insight on top of customer servicing. So that's all from, we're all talking the raw capabilities on these ends before. So that's within here. We don't have the traffic there. It always looks nice on this end, but that's why I use the other module. But the premise is there to click the button and go back and forth. So let me ask you, Sam, on your guys' end, do you use conversion funnels a lot within your analytics, or are you pretty familiar with what those are?
Yeah, well, we use I guess you'd call them, to kind of look at or the inverse, like a fallout type of a reporting. But
okay,
yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay. Well, the main point for this is, we have quite a few different modules, but in this one example of the ideas of practical use for the product is, let's say whether you call it abandonment, fallout, different path analysis. In the case of a conversion funnel, usually a conversion funnel, if you're looking at your checkout process and you're seeing, let's say, that 2% of people who are who are adding information are leaving before they complete the purchase. Usually you'll see the number of people who dropped out, but as a marketer you kind of have to go back to the drawing board to figure out, okay, how do I reduce this number? How can we avoid this in the future? And have to dig around a bit. In our case, the big differentiator here is we're answering the why in all of these scenarios. So in this case, I'm going to show you here, I'm looking at my actual abandoned users, and I'm going to look at that individual session. In this case, this was used internally on our end to detect a couple website-based errors. So our videos record appropriately for website, however your site shows up on the browser, anything that's web-based is going to show up accurately. So in this case, this was quite a while back, we asked our techs and our marketers basically whose fault it is in certain scenarios, and our techs say, oh, no, it's not our fault, and then when we replay video, we see, to the contrary. We saw that our page didn't load appropriately, so we know we don't need to blow up, anything on the business end. So that's just one example of, I'm in my testing environment, heads up, to show you a couple of new mobile things we have, but I'm in my testing environment here, but that's just an example of practical analysis and using, extra insight to uncover pain points. So.
Right.
So other than that, what about heat maps? Do you guys use that pretty regularly, Sam, or are you familiar with how heat map?
No, I don't believe we have a quick maps, but not like a heat map. I actually don't know if we. I don't know if Omni even offers that or not, but
I don't think they do currently. I wasn't sure, so I got to be honest.
No, they do a quick map. They have a quick map tool.
Okay. So on the same note, really, as the conversion funnels, yeah, I'm not always up to date with what's going on there, but when it comes down to the heat maps for clicks case, let me go to a larger screen. The point being, similar to conversion funnels, isn't the capability of creating heat maps. It's being able to dig. If I'm taking a look at a heat map on your site and you see that 1,000 people, let's say, are clicking in the black, you don't know immediately what would possibly cause someone to click in the black. Is it responsive design on our end where things are looking different for that browser or phone? Is it because we might have an image that looks like it's clickable when it actually isn't, It just comes down to having to take a few steps back and dig deeper to uncover the answers. In our case, of course, the difference here is it's all strategically linked to each session, so you can click on each plot point, and you can dig into, if I'm not in my testing environment, from there you can click into each individual video. So that's this is just from a common sense usage standpoint. We also have mouse movement maps, which if you don't know, that just comes down to it's a very low traffic site in this case, but it comes down to movement patterns listed on your site. So if there's more movement in particular sessions, it gives you an aggregate view of the website history. And this is all, we have filters in every module. It's all the same. You can go by date. You can add any other basic, filters from other modules. So those are
aren't clicking at this, that the mouse has been there kind of a thing.
It's mouse movement,
like
correct.
Cover.
Mouse movement as a whole, correct. So if I'm sitting here for 2 seconds without clicking, then I move underneath for 1 second, it would be red above and more blue beneath.
Right.
That makes okay. So aside from that, do you guys use I forgot if you said you use test and target, but do you guys use some sort of tagging system for your site traffic?
Yeah.
Sam. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a real quick overview of this is what we do our dynamic content delivery through to our pushing specific sessions. So we have if you want to create a tag, let's just call it abandoned visitors. So I'm not really showing the capability here as much as the usability in comparison to what you may be used to. So our tags are all associated by color. The reason they're associated by color is that in all of our other views, it's a lot easier to read than being able to see long labels, to get precise information about them. So from our live view, we also display these tags in color. So if you want to, segment your traffic by tag, that's usually the most efficient way. So we can associate these tags with a lot more information than traditional tagging just because we're storing 1,000 times that information. We also have these synced in with our conversion funnels as well. So we're going to go here. Might have to get on my testing environment just to look accurate. Number of keys pressed on the site, The other important aspect here is that we have a visitor, yeah, I might have to get out of here right now, a visitor value system. 1 minute, please, Sam. Sorry. Okay, that's better. Within our tagging, integrated directly, you can apply a value for every action made on your site. So this is used, you can apply no value with each tag. You can apply a value that's only assessed once. So if you want to say, let's say, visitors from Canada as a whole based on our analytics are more valuable, so I want to add 10 points to that visitor score. So next time he shows up on my live view or my general dashboard, I'm going to see that he's a more valuable visitor. You can also attach that score on every occurrence of the event. So in the case with you guys, you might want to integrate your sales process into this. Depending on how the sale is triggered, we can either integrate it manually or do it very seamlessly if it's something that's detected within the page. So you can add in, and when a client pops up on your dashboard from the other views, you'd be able to see, how much value they are to you. So it just gives you a lot of flexibility here to, in one view, understand, the value of customers and understand who they are, as opposed to diving through a lot of data.
Okay.
So this isn't just a little feature-wise. Reporting engines, we can do everything we've shown. This might have to be a higher value site as well. So we have a, module to email reports for who you need to, different formats. The ability to download in PDF, Excel, CSV, XML. You can add any metrics that you want to predefine on the actual dashboard itself. So if I want to add mobile traffic within keyword entry segment, it adds it to compare side by side, and you can also change the different graphs and views. So I know this is pretty similar to the site Catalyst as far as I know. It's more just the data source. So we just have a few built-in reporting features such as this for segments that are predefined. So this time, Sam, I was going to spend, that's kind of the conclusion of the analytics, and I was going to spend about 5 more minutes on our digital competitive intelligence if it's relevant. So do you have any questions on the analytics first, or would you like to chat once we're complete, or what's better on your end?
Well, I guess just to finish up with maybe a couple questions I have with it so far. Well, one, what is just trying to think a little bit through the implementation process. What is the size of, I'm guessing, some code that we need to put on? How big is it?
Are you talking about the size of the actual? So it's page by page. It's JavaScript. When you say the size, is this what you mean, the actual code itself, or the load of the actual script? Okay.
The load, like size by how much.
Okay.
What's the effect?
The effect on the site, it's less than Google Analytics. It's approximately 0.3 is it milliseconds? I'm assuming 0.3 seconds, 3 milliseconds. But our load is less than Google Analytics, even though we have 1,000 times the data by default. So it's only one script added to your site, unlike the kind of Omniture. As far as I know, you need a lot of precise tagging for different scenarios. In our case, you have.
And you're putting this on each page?
Correct. We're doing it page-by-page tagging. So you add it on the page you want to be tracked. If you don't add it to a page, it's not going to be tracked.
Okay.
So it's a fairly light load. It's, I guess, like any tool that's web-based, any web-based application. Just because it seems like it's going to be more on the intrusive end, but we also have some, our structure of how we're storing data is also custom to our company. That was our big hurdle as a company, was being able to do this in a lightweight script with 1,000 times the data, and that was our biggest pain point to kind of move forward and deliver our solution. So, but yeah, that's taken care of now on our end. Our implementation process, just to give you an idea, this isn't cut and paste. It's not going to be installed correctly. It's average 10 to 15 hours time internally for us to customize to all the dynamic elements on your site. And a 3-week window is usually what we need to guarantee, the Q&A internally, because the videos aren't just copy and paste to start playing. So.
Okay. And then what kind of support do you guys offer if we don't, something doesn't seem to be accurate or correct or not capturing what we thought it was?
All of our support's based in the U.S. We have a dedicated engineer for all of our customers, and we're here basically to help you through the whole process.
We have 24 hours.
Is it like a 24-hour?
Yeah.
Yes, 24, 7 by 24.
So I will say, just to let you know, Sam, the only things that are hard costs on the end is we can also customize. Anything that's a customization that's not out of the box and integration type, any hours internally on that end is the only cost outside of the norm. Support's not going to be charged in any different capacity as long as it's, de facto. So.
And then what kind of like usage are we able to get? Like, is there licensing by user? I just saw a little bit look like some customer service. So if we gave each one of our customer service agents, like, is that? I guess I'm trying to understand how the licensing goes to the user.
Our pricing is primarily dedicated by the amount of traffic. So it's by the amount of traffic and and some other factors. That's primarily
traffic that our site gets.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Well, it's what you're asking about is if you implemented this within your customer servicing and you also implemented it within your retail, if there would be separate licenses, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, is it like can I have 10 people, 20 people all using this tool at the same time, and what's the difference between one person wanting to use it, say me, or having 20 people wanting to use this tool?
There's no difference. It's no additional fee. We would have we have a fixed licensing fee up front. That fee would be additional if you're integrating it on, let's say you have glasses.com. If your support is under a different domain, that would be a separate fee. It's on a domain by domain basis when it comes down to what's qualified as something separate. So. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I give you the overview of the competitive intelligence or anything more on your end?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great. And on that note, before I jump in here, do you guys use Compete? Or I don't know if you're familiar with what Compete or Alexa or Quantcast, anything basically to monitor what your customers are doing and understand, how to understand the best marketing strategies out there?
Not that I know of, but I'm not in that world, so.
That's what I figured. So I'm going to keep this real shallow in that case, so and real top. So,
okay.
so long story short, let me make sure we have in the right environment. So long story short, what we have here integrated in the same module as analytics is, so we created sites like Google and Bing. What they're doing is they have approximately 15 to 20 million websites that they're storing. And it's basically the liability is on the website user or on each website owner to get indexed. So what that means is they're missing approximately 80% of all websites out there. They figure they get all the large relevant ones. Oopgo, internally, the last 5-6 years, we've been building our own website index. It's the first of its kind to index every website out there. So our index is approximately 180 million domains. Every 24 hours after a domain gets registered, we're storing the information that's on the page. So what this allows you to do is someone to do is it allows them to monitor their competition based on traffic ranks, social media changes, performance, and a few other key analytics, where the goal here is where you would identify your top competitors. And let me get a better view of this. What you would do, this is what a sample deliverable would look like. You would choose a few competitors. You would see, hey, their traffic went up 40% this last month. Their social media, they had 50 million Facebook likes. Now we should probably take a closer look at that campaign to see how closely it's correlated. So what we call this is automated awareness into what your competitors are doing and using from a technical perspective. So it also lets you, if you want to define your industry by keywords internally, we could monitor those 5, 10,000, maybe even 50 websites, and every month come up with the average page load speed, the technologies used on a macro basis as well. So that's, I suppose, a long story short about the other offering that our company provides.
That looks, I guess I don't know how else they would get that, but that actually looks like it'd be very useful.
Yeah, it's just one of those concepts, it's hard. People separate. That's why we kind of call ourselves 360 website intelligence, because we're kind of giving all the information on your competitors as well as internally. So it's usually just difficult because a lot of companies have, their SEO and marketing world completely separated from analytics, when in reality, you obviously can't see videos of your competitor sites, but if you can get broad-based analytics and understanding of the tools used, the biggest advantage is if I come up with XYZ technology tomorrow and all your competitors are using it successfully, you're not going to be in the black very long, You're going to say, look, they just added XYZ technology on their site. It's worth taking a closer look. Marketing department, go get them. Yeah, essentially that's it. So aside from that, I'll just say on our end, do you guys have any particular pain points or struggle, any other scenario you might want to outline on your site to see how it can fit in? Anything you're currently dealing with from an analytics perspective, such as people, I'll give you a common one with enterprise sites like yourself, retail, is they'll say that they have problems when someone is logging out and asking for a new password, then going into their email and, kind of understanding that same customer because it's a different session. That's just one. Do you guys have any pain points like that are currently bothering you, I suppose?
Where do I start?
Where do you start? How about one scenario? This is also always for us to learn and outline any potential built-in modules, if you don't mind. So.
Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff, actually, even the tools we have aren't being completely utilized well, so we're trying to fix them. To even get that far is, boy.
The answer could be no to that. The answer could be that's a whole different conversation. I'm fine with that if that's the case. So.
There's so much.
That's.
The search bar. You could go just in this nav bar at the top with the search thing. There's a lot that we don't really understand about how well that's being used, or if it's a easy thing or a frustrating thing. And yeah, there's.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you want more insight into your auto search functionality and the relevancy and accuracy and that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
All right, I'll show you one solution we have customized. I think there's something I hadn't shown that may be applicable for that scenario. This is all on our end. Anytime you have a product like this, it all comes down to practical usage. All the bells and whistles don't really matter. It comes down to how can you add value to your company in the short term and long term, with the least amount of hassle, I suppose. So on that note, something I hadn't showed is, so obviously from a capability end, we're able to relay the pre-submit data. So you could outline, for instance, I'm going to open up, actually, this is the wrong link I have to get the correct one. In this case, for a form, we kind of have a lot of custom macro-based analytics. This was the scenario I mentioned before. What I didn't mention is this that I think relates to your situation. So in this case, on the field I showed before, we're creating, we created a custom view. So on each visitor, we don't want all the supplementary analytics around their visit. All we wanted is if they filled out a form, show exactly what they did. Or in this case, it's if they entered a form field, show what was entered. So in this case, we outlined individually all of the abandoned fields. So in this case, someone's mouse entered the email, the name, forms, they entered them each for 5 seconds, and they were abandoned. So in this case, for what you're talking about, your pain point, we could outline this to show what the final entry point was before people abandon your site, and we could also show the, in your case, I suppose you probably want to see the accompanying drop-down information to understand how relevant what their search was to what was submitted, something along those lines.
Yeah, right.
So here's one of those, it's one of those things where we always would like to have top-level meetings and, understand pain points. And on our end, this 1,000 times as much data. This is how it's used efficiently, not just giving you a big, a lot of data to start dumpster diving through value. So in this case, we also came up with an analytic to submit as confident, a customized label based on if someone went through a form once without going back and changing their choice. So I personally have a lot of experience with auto search functionality, and I know the big issue comes down to you want someone in 2 seconds to get exactly where they want to go with the relevancy of what they're entering. So in this case, think in this case, it gives insight into that, and this would be, potential supplement use as well if we're not looking to take over, an entire analytics portion. So that's it on my, that's basically it on our end. James, if you want to add anything. Hello?
Yeah, no.
Just a couple of housekeeping questions, I guess. Maybe explain just a little bit. When you adopt new technology, what's your normal practice? Do you have more of a vertical kind of structure where you take the info from meetings like this and you sort of report upward and make a decision, or do you go more horizontal where you get more team buy-in and you sort of do it as a group? How do you guys normally process that kind of thing?
Oh, well, normal isn't going to be anything here. I'm fairly new myself here, as is everyone else here. So we're just we're figuring it out as we go. But what I would do is I would get I'd want to explain the benefits and the insight, and I'd want to share what I learned with my team and see if that interests, how it interests, and see. If there are other solutions, or if this is the only solution, and we'd talk it out and hash it out, and we'd probably want to, if there's a high level of interest, touch back and learn more, see how it affects everybody.
Got it. I appreciate that feedback. Secondly, in meetings like this, we always say what we're looking for is not consensus but clarity, right? Typically we see one of three things. It's I get what you're doing, and that could have a good fit within what we're doing. Secondly, we get I get what you're doing. We're not sure if it could be a good fit, and then lastly, I get it, but I don't think it would be a good fit at all. Do you have a feeling where you sit on that continuum?
Yeah, and I feel like I understand a lot of what this could offer us. It looks like it would be pretty fantastic. It would just come down to where we are right now. We're doing a lot, and we would need to not do something else to do this, so it'd just be how it fits in with our overall plan for the year.
Got it.
But
now, as far as budgeting,
it's pretty powerful here.
Got it. Do you control your own budget, or is that
no.
in a group, or is that somebody above you?
Yeah, that'd be someone above me.
Okay. You don't get to write checks yourself, huh?
Nope.
Yeah, I think that's the answer. We get 99.95%.
So
going forward, then, I guess the process would be that you talk to your team members and get some feel on their thoughts, and if there's some buy-in on their end, then we'd schedule another meeting and maybe take them through it, or what would be useful.
Yeah, that's how I think I'd see it. We'd try to see if we have other questions, and maybe we have more targeted questions that we can all ask, and I'll do the best I can to explain what I found out, and we'll probably come back with more.
Okay. We can supply with some data too, if that would be useful to you, and or do a small presentation too. So, how about this?
Sorry, real quick, I just had one quick question. I was just, before we started this, I was just kind of looking through a little bit of the site, and I saw something. I don't know what this is. A surveys VOC. What is that?
Voice. I didn't show you every module we have. We have voice of the customer. VOC stands for Voice of the Customer, which is essentially we have built-in surveys, so you can deploy surveys for particular clients. So if you want to say someone has come to your site. What's that, Sam?
Oh, I'm just saying I think we would really like that.
You would really like that. I'll make that now. Yeah. Right now, I always try to show the right developing environment or the right module for a particular company case, so that's not part of my default A pitch, so to speak. But I can make that note, and we can definitely dive deeper into that capability on a follow-up.
Okay.
Boys. So yeah, so if it makes sense to you, it's you can customize survey choices for your clients. Then you can say, I want to deploy this for Joe Bob, who's came to my site 25 times and keeps leaving. Let's figure out what's wrong with him, So.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that would be amazing.
Great. And then one more comment too, Sam. Based on our conversation and the feedback you gave us, I would think we do record these initial conversations. About half the time we get requests to attach the recording or to send you a link where you would have access to share that internally. Is that something that you'd be interested in us sending you It'd be on a password-protected link. So I would
Yeah,
think
that'd
that's
be great.
usually the
In case
best
we
way
need
to relay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That'd be
Well,
great.
on that note, we will send you an email with a copy of that and a few links also with a little more data. When would be appropriate to circle back with you?
Let's do. Well, let me check before I speak too soon.
Let me check to confirm as well.
As I wasn't awesome with my initial commitment the first time, so I can get solid here. Okay. I'm thinking a great time for me to communicate out what I have might be about a week, so it'd probably be about 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay.
Yeah.
So I will
It's a while,
circle back
but-
with you in a couple weeks. We'll send you an email again with a copy of the presentation from today, a few links that just give you a little bit of data points, and I'll check back in a couple weeks. Obviously, if you need anything in the interim, feel free to give us a call or an email. And
Okay.
again, we appreciate your time very much. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Sam.
Have
Nice
a
talking
good
to you.
afternoon, guys. Thanks so
All right, see
much.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.